Okay.
What's that? It's nice.
Please let me know when you are able to see my screen.
Yes, I can see.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, just a moment. If I can't find the device, that's fine. There's no waste time.
Highlights.
Okay, so last week we started working on purview, but we couldn't complete purview on Saturday. So we have that to complete today. And we have that to complete today, and also we'll be looking also at Defender for endpoints. So before I start, I'll say that first of all, for everyone who is struggling to get VirtualBox to work and run virtual machine, maybe for your system or whatever, I think you can use Oracle Cloud. You can sign up for Oracle Cloud Trial. I think it is cheaper and you can run virtual machine there. So basically you can run your virtual machine from Oracle Cloud if you are not able to set up virtual machine on your on your laptop. So basically the running what's it called, running Azure Hack, onboarding from Oracle Cloud to Azure Hack is the same process, whether you are using Oracle Cloud or whether you are using your virtual machine on your system. So I'll recommend for people who are not able to set up virtual machine on their system to consider signing up for Oracle Cloud, setting up VM there, and trying to onboard it in Azure Hack. And this will come very handy for our hands-on on Saturday. I'll start some of the hands-on today for endpoints, but for people that don't have virtual machine on their system, it's okay for them to go to Oracle Cloud. I think Oracle Cloud takes some time. You see, I tried to sign up myself around 17:45 today. I was giving them my card details and everything, and they told me it might take up to 15 minutes. And they also then sent me an email saying that it can actually take longer. So while I've given them all of the details that they need, I'm still waiting for them to contact me to say that the Oracle Cloud is fully set up. Currently, I can't log into the cloud account name, so I have to wait for them. So that said, last week we started with mitigating threats using Microsoft Purview. We cover data loss prevention, we cover insider risk alerts and related activity. And we have search and investigate with Microsoft Purview and also content search left to cover. So I'll quickly cover that within the next 30 to 40 minutes. To start with, I think the most important thing when it comes to technology is always understanding the why. Why would you need it? We know that a lot of the alerts and a lot of the risk or security incidents are aggregated for us by Defender XDR, and we'll always have the incidents and the alert from what's it called within the Defender XDR. We'll always have that there. But there are instances where you also need to be able to correlate happenings across different area. For instance, maybe you are doing an investigation, there is a leakage, or maybe in an organization for people who are working in the health sector, for instance, there is a law guiding how patient records are assessed. An instance, there is a regulation called HIPAA. So HIPAA basically protects what is it called? Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. People can access data just for the fun of it because they have access to medical data. You can have a situation where maybe a guy and a lady were in a relationship, the lady has gone, or maybe some people are even cutting, and just because someone gets a wind of it, just want to see, oh, I have access to all the medical records of everyone in the UK. Let me just go and check the health of this person and all of those things. So private, confidential information, some people may abuse it just because they have power to actually access it. So we have HIPAA, which protects people's access to private medical record. And if you are in such an organization and if such an incident has been reported and you need to investigate it, how do you investigate it if you don't have audits? So basically what the Microsoft Purview does for us, Microsoft Purview audits does for us is for you to be able to record the activities of the users and the admin across the Microsoft 365 system. And of course, it's possible for you to, if you have custom application that you have built, you can also consider extending the log of your application into Microsoft 365 actually, for you to be able to benefit also from Purview audit log. So one thing you need to know, by default, Microsoft provide the audit capability for all people that use Microsoft 365. So there is the audit standard, which is limited, but you also have premium, which some people would have access to by the virtue of the kind of license that they have. Yeah, sorry for the background. By the virtue of the license that they have access to, if you compare the audit standard and audit premium together, you see that you have 180 days for the log retention for audit standard, but for audit premium, you have 1 year audit log retention for audit premium, and you can even extend it by, if you have a retention policy, to 10 years. And you can see for audit premium, that is the only one where you can actually configure retention policies, and you can also run intelligent insights based on audit premium. By default, audit is enabled for all environments, but it's always a good thing for you to actually confirm that it is enabled. So the first thing you want to check as a threat engineer is to be sure that if you need to make a recourse to audit search, you have the audit data available. So you need to validate that it's actually enabled. It should be enabled by default, but validate that it's enabled. You have thousands of searchable audit events. You have things you can search, up to someone downloading maybe files from your SharePoint. I think I did mention on the last call where we were contacted about someone that was leaving the organization and moving to a competitor, and were saddled with the responsibility of looking at the activity of the exiting user in the last 1 month, what the person has been doing basically, and if he's been taking data out of the organization. All of those things we were able to do using the audit. Some people will call it a unified audit log, but basically I just call it purview audit. You are able to search logs, you are able to export audit records, and also you are able to interact with API access. Basically, if you want to use API to actually interact with audits without having to navigate the purview UI, you can do that. And again, I mentioned that by default, you have 180 days retention of audit log. Beyond 180 days, you need a premium license before you can do it. I've also already talked about some of these things. I think it's just the re-emphasis of what Microsoft, what some of the things that I've already explained. So for the knowledge check, which feature is common to both Microsoft Audit Standard and Audit Premium? I think I already mentioned it. You're able to search log for the two of them, and some, while I mean, some people call these the search function of the audit is actually called unified audit log, and you can also use PowerShell. You can also use PowerShell to search the log if you don't want to use what's it called, the purview interface. Yep, so I believe we got that right. Yep, so how do you configure and manage Microsoft Purview? Just for Microsoft Purview, for Microsoft Purview standard, what you just need to have is a qualifying license, maybe Microsoft E3, E5, F1, F3, or maybe Office 365, E1, E3, E5, F3. If you need access to premium, you must actually have a Microsoft 365 E5, or maybe that includes E5 compliance basically. So EMS includes E5 compliance and E5 security basically. So that should be sufficient. And for organizations that use Microsoft F5, if they have F5 compliance or F5 security, that should be sufficient. Or if they have Microsoft E5, just know that if you look at the audit premium, you'll see that what you see is either E5, F5, or something 5, basically. It's telling you that you need to have the highest level of office productivity license for you to qualify for premium access in terms of permission, in terms of licensing. In terms of, if you compare that with standard, you see things like E3, F5, basically. And of course, E5 already included the standard as well. In terms of permission, for someone to be able to get to the audit, purview and use the audit function, the person has to be assigned appropriate permission, and they can be assigned the audit manager role or the audit reader role. For someone whose job is just for auditing, you don't want them to be able to make configuration changes. You probably want to just grant them the audit reader role. But if you need someone to be able to make changes to policies or the audit settings itself, they need to have an audit manager role. And then how do you set up the audit? In order for us to save time, I just have already put everything in PowerShell. The first thing is for you to actually connect to Exchange Online and check if audit log is admin audit log is enabled. So I know by default, because you have PowerShell installed, PowerShell by default does not have all of the modules, especially the cloud modules installed. So if you're not familiar with PowerShell, for you to be able to interact with this CMD LED, for you to be able to run this command by default, you need to have Exchange Online installed. You need to have Exchange Online installed. You need to have Exchange Online installed, and to install the Exchange Online module as well, you need to have execution policy set. So basically, these are some of the requirements that you need to have met for you to be able to install the Exchange Online PowerShell. And also, while I was trying to set it up, I noticed that it was failing. I couldn't install I couldn't install Exchange Management Shell, and I just realized that that actually depends on Windows Remote Management, this service. If this service is not running, you may not be able to install you may not be able to install Exchange Online PowerShell. Basically, you need to ensure. I think for me, it was actually left on manual, meaning that I have to start it manually. I just change it to delay start. It should always start when my system starts, basically, so that I don't have to always worry about that. I need it for some other things as well. And basically, after setting the execution policy, I set a win RM to the basic to be true, and then I just installed what's it called, PowerShell Get module, which actually allow me to install other modules for cloud. And after that, I installed the Exchange Management Shell. After that, I just needed to validate that it was properly installed. And if you look at it, oh, okay, I ran everything, sorry. What I wanted to do is just to run this line. So was for me to check that Exchange Online Management module was installed. And as you can see, I have the version 3.72 installed. So I could connect to Exchange Online. Now it says a window must be configured, blah, 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 blah. Version what is currently in use, retry operation after. So I just to rerun the program, and after that, I should be able to connect to Exchange Online. So connecting to Exchange Online, it's prompting for my name. I can sign into my account for this program. And obviously it will prompt me for MFA. So I put in my MFA, I just validated, and I don't want to sign into all apps. I'm just going to use on this app only, no, this app only. And currently I'm logged on to Exchange Online. And from there, I'm able to run this check, basically to check the admin. And you can see that the unified audit log injection is enabled, is currently set to true. If for you run this command and you find out that it is actually false, you can use this next command to actually turn on the unified audit log. So that said, if you need to assess, basically, I mean, all of the steps you have here is what I've summarized in step 4. I mean, configuring audit in Purview is verify that your organization have a qualifying license. Ensure that you have proper permission, set up audit premium for users. If you have certain users that you want to specifically monitor their activity and even what they search, you can use this basically to actually configure that for those users. And you can use this command to verify that audit is already turned on. And if it's not already turned on, you need to connect to Exchange Online and then use this to set audit turned on. For whatever reason, if your organization, which I will not recommend anyway, if your organization choose to want to turn off auditing, yeah, you can also, what's it called? If you want to turn off auditing, sorry. If you want to turn off auditing, you can also use this command to turn it off. But again, why would you want to do that? So what is the main difference between subscription required between Microsoft's Purview Audit Standard and Audit Premium? Does anyone want to answer that? Yeah, Emmanuel, yes, you can run Azure. I believe you are reacting to what I said earlier. You can run VM on Azure, but in order for you to, what's it called, manage your credits, that's why I would have said run it on premise so that you don't finish all of your credits before the end of the program. But if you are comfortable with running it on Azure, if you are comfortable with running it on Azure, please do. But I think you have 300 US dollar to play with on Oracle Cloud for 30 days. That's why I just recommend that for people that cannot run it physically on their system. So what is the main difference in subscription requirement between Microsoft Purview Audit Standard and Audit Premium? So we want to try. Hello. I hope we're all in class today.
Yeah.
You've not left me to myself.
For me, I think option 1, audit premium requires higher tier plans like Microsoft 365 and yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It requires a higher tier plans, and I did mention that as well. So how do you prepare to so the next is asking how to conduct search with audits. Basically, I've already emphasized the importance of confirming first that it's enabled for your organization. If it's not enabled, then you need to enable it. If you go into Purview, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. If you go into Purview, you can always see okay. If you go into Purview, you can see the different tiles that you have, and you can view all solutions if peradventure what you're looking for is not there. But under audits, yeah, under the core capabilities of the Purview, you see audit, so you can select audit. and immediately you see the audit search. Let me just say here that if you are using it for the first time, you can have one weird error here saying that Microsoft is not sure whether you have audits enabled or not. I think if you have that, you can just go ahead and run this last command here that force unified audit log injection, that enable unified audit log injection, and just wait for some minutes. And I believe after that, you should be able to see your log. I think for me, it took about 15 minutes when I came to the audit log before I actually have it. And one thing you should quickly see, you are able to select a date, and according to standard, what's it called? According to the licensing requirement, if you are using one of the free licenses, you should be able to go back for 6 months. But if you have higher tier of license, you should be able to go back for up to 10 years, basically, if you have policy. If you have E5, because we have EMS E5 enabled, which also include compliance E5. So we can go as far back as 10 years. But for organizations that are using E3 license only, they'll only be able to go back as far back as 6 months, which is 180 days. If you have specific keyword you're looking for, you can put it here. If you have special character in your keyword, maybe what I'm looking for contains maybe a particular file, and I know the file name. Maybe the file's name is files this way, apostrophe file. Anywhere you have a special character, you can just replace it with a star. That's just to tell you that Purview have a weird behavior with special character, and for consistency of marking those character, it's always best for you to actually use star in place of the special character in your keyword. If you look here as well in terms of activity, you see that there are different activities that you can there are different activities that you can search. You see from file, accessed file. If you want to check who accessed what file and you know the file name, you can put the file name here and see a file's name. If you are looking for people that went to change retention label on a file, or people that deleted some files that have been marked as a record. So you have different things that you can actually check. You see to tiny details like folder activities, which are things that everyday user does, up until maybe things like someone renaming your SharePoint site, which can be an admin, someone changing your site lock, for instance, information barrier report, OneDrive access, SharePoint activities. You have so many things. User administration, who added a user to a particular group, for instance, who deleted a user, who set license property or remove license, who reset someone's user's password. In cases where you are investigating maybe a lateral movement in your organization or maybe an account takeover, and you see that one of the action that the attacker has taken, or maybe even an insider threat has taken, is changing a sensitive account password. You are able to use this to actually find out who reset whose password, if that is what you are looking for, who changed user's property, who added the user to group, who added the group, who updated the group, who added members to group. So basically you can use these to do many things. A lot of time people also abuse power in organization. You have people searching. I always okay, I think it will be funny, but the IT admins are actually gods when it comes to enterprise. They have power to see and to unsee, basically. And functionalities like e-discovery actually give them the permission to actually see every tiny details of information that is going on in the organization. And one of the things that you actually want to do is you may always want to audit who is using e-discovery and what they are using it for. So if you have some people that are creating a content search, which we're going to get to later, you may also want to monitor this. And for me, one of the things I always love to do is actually create an alert in Purview. If someone starts e-discovery, I want to get notified immediately. I don't want to wait for the person to actually be looking at the content of sensitive emails or even maybe director's email. I want to get a notification to actually know what the person is doing and to be able to challenge them ahead, basically. So you have all of these different activities. And if you have even up onto co-pilots, so if you have co-pilots in your organizations that people are interacting with, I think is it co-pilots? If you have people interacting with co-pilots in your organization as well, you are able to actually look at their interaction with co-pilots and then be able to see what they are doing as well. If you know the operations name, you can do it, but I always love to just use the friendly activity and also use a keyword to do my search. And if you have a specific what's it called, record type that you are also interested in, maybe attack simulation or whatever, you can always use those as well, depending on what you're looking for. Okay, I think I was looking for something co-pilot earlier. Yeah, so you can see here, if what I'm looking for is co-pilot interaction, a lot of time, if I'm investigating maybe a data breach or data loss, and it's been established that that information was lost through someone copying information directly into a co-pilot, for instance, I can actually see what information people are putting in co-pilots. And I can give this search a name. If you don't give the search a name like what I did earlier, you see that it just give me April 1 to 8, new DLP rules, new DLP compliance policy, basically. Here I was searching for the compliance policy rule that I created between April 1st and May 8th. So because I didn't give it a friendly name, it just gave it this nonsense name for me. If I want to do it differently, this is still the same search, and I'm just going to put DLP, match DLP, remove DLP, all of this. Let me just pick those are the things I'm interested in. And if I just give it DLP search, basically, and I did a search, you see that when the search is created, it uses the name that I have used, and by default, you see that it is first queued. It will be queued, and then just in a minute or in about a minute, it will start processing. If I click on refresh, you can see in progress, basically, it's already running a search to actually find the activities that I have. And at any point in time, you can only run 10 concurrent search. You can't run more than 10 concurrent search. You can run 10 concurrent search at any given time. So if you are done with the search and you find what you need and you want to clean it up, basically you can just click on the search item and click on delete, and that should remove it from your dashboard. I just deleted what I had previously, and you see that I have just this DLP search that I just created. And in refreshing, you can see that the progress is still 0%. So when it gets to 100%, basically, it will tell you the number of record that is matched. And yeah, you can always click on it to actually see the items. And basically also you have the functionality to export the record. If you need to export a record, you have this opportunity here to export the record, maybe just for you to be able to do advanced search or analytics on it on Microsoft, maybe in Excel or any other data analytics tool that you preferred. That's how to conduct a search, and that's how to that's how to conduct a search. And also, like I mentioned, it is possible to also use PowerShell to do a search. For a lot of admin, if you know what you are doing, and you just want to be able to automate things quickly, you can do that. But I think the UI is also robust enough to give you what you need. If you need to use PowerShell, you can always use I think new compliance search, compliance search commandlet to do your unified audit search. And basically you have all of these commandlets, so you can always read how to use the commandlet instruction on it, and maybe samples in actually finding whatever it is that you are trying to find using a commandlet. Yep. I mean, these are just basic scenario. So let's check our knowledge. What is the maximum number of job search a user can run at the same time in Microsoft Purview Compliance Portal? Does anyone know?
10.
10, yeah. So we say that 10. Thank you. That means you are following. I did mention also that for what's it called, for the audit, you can also audit what people are doing on what's it called, you can also audit what people are doing in Copilot. Basically, under the activities, you can just search for interaction or interacted with Copilot, and that will give you view of what people are doing. But what I would love Microsoft to do, a lot of people in the organizations are not just using Microsoft Copilot, they are using things like ChatGPT. For me, for instance, I prefer Gemini to ChatGPT. I use Gemini every day to refine mails and all of those details. But if people really want to see what people are doing, I think it will make sense for them to actually have to be able to integrate more than just what Microsoft does. And now for audit, you'll see that if you look at Microsoft Audit Premium and Microsoft Audit Standard, we already discussed about where the difference is, which is in terms of the retention. Both of them have basic search, but the standard, audit standard retention period is limited to 180 days. For audit premium, you can extend it to up to 10 years, basically. By default, it will give you 1 year, but through policies, you can extend it. If, for instance, under audit, you see that I have policies and I'm able to create policy, I can give the policy a name. I can set a description for my policy. And if I want it to apply to particular users, I can search for those users. And if it is particular record I'm interested in, I can search for that record. For instance, a lot of things that people want to do, if there's an audit search and I want anybody that search anything, I want to keep record of what people are searching for and keep it for maybe 10 years. I can create that policy to actually say, I'm just going to gain CSMG audit retention admin. Let's just say admin. Basically, any admin activity that may be of interest. Any admin activity that may be of interest or that I don't want to be over reading maybe so quickly. I can look for them for things like maybe changes to tenant config, our cloud tenants update, someone update profile config or maybe device config. I can, sorry, just 1 minute. So I can select all those things that are of interest to me, and I can select the duration. You see, I can set them from maybe whatever your retention policy is. For some organization who have a retention policy of 3 years, or record should be kept for 5 years, they can do that, and you can assign it a priority, maybe priority of 1, priority of 0, priority of whatever priority you have it. Now, if you have 2 or 3, for instance, for this one, I have audit search. If I create another retention policy and I have audit search included as a record type that I want to keep for more than 1 year, and instead of 5 years, I put 3 years there, how does this guy actually know what retention policy to apply? Because I have 2 policies that are conflicting. So it used the priority of the policy, the priority of the policy to actually judge the priority, I mean the higher priority, I mean the higher priority wins basically. So if I have a rule, I mean if I have a policy that says retention policy should be 5 and the priority is 1, and I have another one that says retention policy should be 2 years, and that priority is 10, so the lower priority will win basically. The lower the priority, the higher its preference. So that's what I mean. And then the lower priority will always win. Okay. So for people who want to use command line, you can use the search unified audit log, and you can always provide the same details that you provide in the UI in what's it called in your search. So how does Microsoft, okay, I did not mention this. How does Microsoft Purview Audit handle duplicate audit record to simplify log management? By deleting all duplicates immediately? No. By filtering duplicates within an hour if certain property don't change, by allowing all duplicates to ensure data integrity. So basically, it filters out duplicates within an hour if properties do not change. So I already showed that audit log can be exported basically. For the log that for the search that I created earlier, I don't have anything because I really do not have any activity. But if I have, what's it called? If I have data here, it's possible for me to actually do exports from here and then be able to export it out. I think just for the purpose of this class, I'm going to create a rule that should match something. One activity I know I've been doing and doing well is actually looking at email and reading emails. So basically, if I create a rule that says read email or the email I have accessed, that should give us something. Why is this taking long? Just going to say Read mail. You're right. Also, because filtering through these friendly activity can be time consuming, I think that may actually be a justification for some people to then go and use what's it called? To then go and use PowerShell actually. If you know exactly what you're looking for and you don't want to be running around or going through what's it called? Or go through search through exactly, then you can possibly just look at okay, I think it's taking time for me to even see what I put. So you can then, I mean, you can use the PowerShell for that. I'm not looking at Fabric, Microsoft Teams, read message read by recipient, thread probe. I'm actually looking for Exchange. Service, created exclusion, calculation, activity. Why does it look like it's actually just keep bringing the same thing actually? Created policy configuration. I think that's plan attacks. Okay, Microsoft to do. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. And then I can do a search. So basically that's how to conduct search, and you can do an export to Excel, which will give you a CSV. If you want to do some further analysis, you can always do that in Excel, basically. And yeah, retention. I have just demonstrated how to do retention through the creation of a retention policy, basically, and which you can do. Also, you can also use the new unified log retention policy commandlet on PowerShell to actually create it from PowerShell if you prefer not to use what's it called? If you prefer not to use the UI to create the policy. And also, yeah, just another check. What is the maximum retention period that Microsoft Purview Audit Premium allow for audit logs? Who knows?
That's 10.
That's 10 years. By default, it is 1, but through retention policy, you can configure up to 10 years. This is a modular assessment, but I'm going to skip this because of the time. So the last module we have as part of this is investigating threats with content search in Microsoft Purview. And I'm just going to go here back to audit. You can see related solution e-discovery. Now, the e-discovery and audits, e-discovery is actually what is called a content search, but you also have audit search. What we just covered is an audit search where an action has taken place and you are looking for those actions. I mean, you are looking for what happened or trying to figure out what happened. You can use the audit to find that out. But there are instances also where you may actually be interested in finding out details about a particular content. Currently, it's telling me that for me to, I have global administrator, but global administrator by default does not give you access to e-discovery. If you need to access e-discovery, you need to have appropriate permission, e-discovery manager. So I can obviously go into settings and I can go into e-discovery. Sorry, I need to be assigned e-discovery manager. Sorry, under roles and scope. Yeah, so under roles and scope, basically, I could come to group roles, and this give me access to some granular what's it called, groups within the purview that are not managed centrally as part of the Entra. So these ones are more of security roles. So I can just go to e-discovery manager, which is the right that I need, and I can edit, and I can choose a member and add myself, Ayokumi. Select this, click on next, and I'm just going to save, basically. If I save it and I go back to e-discovery, it should allow me to access it. If it does not allow me to access it, I may just need to log out and log in, and then I should be able to access it. But again, now I can confirm that I'm able to access it. So a lot of time in organization, maybe someone sent an email and maybe a client had sent an email. Someone slept on it or faffed, and then the person claimed that they did not receive the email. In most instances, if you are interested in actually finding out whether they received the email or not, you can use the e-discovery to actually search if they received the email or not. There are also instances where people receive malicious email and someone had reported it, but you don't know the number of people that have received the email. If you have things like the sender email address, the time period when the mail was sent, maybe the subject or the mail content, you can actually create a content search to actually find as many people as have that kind of email or have received that kind of email within your organization. And also to mention that a lot of time when people delete email, for instance, from their mailbox, those details are not deleted. Those details are not deleted. If your organization have a retention policy that says record should be held for maybe 5 years, even if you do an hard delete, that email is not deleted. It is held somewhere, and an admin that is using maybe an e-discovery can always find that detail. Where did you get it from? Can always find that detail in the by searching. The first thing is always adding the source. Where are you looking? Where are you looking for? Where was the information that you are looking for? Where was it shared? And who are the people also involved, basically? So if it has to do with what's it called, all sources, if I select all sources in my tenant, basically it's showing me these people because I don't have much details. If I say all sources in my tenant, it looks everywhere. It looks SharePoint, it looks on Teams, it looks on everybody's mailbox. Basically, if I'm interested in certain people, it will search for those people. If interested in groups of users, it will search for those group of users. So basically, I can select I can add sources, and I can add tenant-wide sources as well, including people and groups. And you can see these include mailbox, these include all sites and public folder, if that is available. And from the builder here, if you have a keyword, you can always add your keyword. Just put whatever keyword. Let's say someone received a mail that is called a ransom, or you have ransom in the email. You can just put it in the keyword, and you can use the condition. The conditions to refine. You see, in addition to the keyword, you can use a KQL. If you have dates, you can use dates. If you have subject or title, for instance, for the email, you can use that. If you have maybe participants, maybe some people that received the mail, in the mail trail, you can put it there. And if you have the content type as well, maybe it's a document, it's co-pilot activity, IPM schedule, you can put all of those details, and then you can run a content search. In cases where you actually have it as a problem and you really need to open it as a case, you can use a case to actually manage your search. I remember there was a company I worked for, and during a time when they were looking at going for an IPO, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there was a conversation that the auditor was interested in among the directors, and they want to actually see who has what details, because we need to run many search and they are related. Because of that, we created it as a case, and under that case, we were creating different search. that it's easy for us to actually export and give to the auditor that has requested for those details. So basically, that's how to use e-discovery. You use e-discovery to find details of information that users may be trying to conceal, even information that they think that they have deleted in trying to cover their tracks. You can use e-discovery to cover those things. If you want to find what people have been up to, or their activities, their footprints, basically, you can use the audit to see what they've been up to. But in terms of digging out the content, you can actually use e-discovery and content search to dig out the content that people may have deleted, or records are of interest, or maybe even investigate maybe malicious email that has been sent to many people in the organization. If you need to find out who have received those emails and then be able to delete from people's email box, you are able to do that. And I think I'm just going to give you an assignment on e-discovery and insider risk. I think that will bring us to the end of purview. So I don't know if there are questions. I would like to take questions. If there is none, we can go for a break, and when we come back, we start talking about endpoints. Defender for endpoints. So that brings us to the end of purview. And I also like to say that we are midway into our learning. We've covered Defender XDR. We covered Security Copilot. We've covered Microsoft Purview. We have already covered Defender for Cloud. And hopefully by Saturday, we should be able to end Defender for Endpoint. And then we should be able to cover what is left in the next 4 weeks, and then come to the end of this program. So I'm going to go to Defender for Endpoints, and what we're meant to cover, how to protect against threats using Defender for Endpoints, how to do the deployment for Defender for Endpoints, how to implement Windows security enhancements with Defender for Endpoints, how to perform device investigation in Defender for Endpoints, and how to perform actions on a device using Defender for Endpoints. How to use Defender for Endpoint to perform evidence and entity investigation, and how to configure and manage automation with Defender for Endpoints, and alert and detection and vulnerability management function of Defender for Endpoints. For me, I currently have Defender for Endpoints already signed up. It took some time, but if you look at settings, for me, sorry, let me refresh this page. I think setting page is taking time to load. Is it my internet or the system? I feel like things are slow. Okay, I'm not sure I can't queue anything I'm not using. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Defender for endpoint, Defender for into the Defender portal, and you can see here that I have Defender endpoint, and I'm able to configure Defender for endpoint, and you can also see that I have Sentinel. Now the thing is, you need to sign up for Defender for endpoint license, and I think Microsoft requires that everyone already have a paid version of Microsoft Office 365 E3 at the minimum before they can sign up for marketplace or products. Yeah, before people can license actually. Before people can sign up for Defender for endpoint. So you can see that I have Office 365 E3, which is a trial. So what I did was actually to pay for a P2. For Defender for endpoint, you have plan 1 and plan 2. Plan 2 is the one that is comprehensive and contain all of the functionality we need. So I actually paid for a single license. I paid for a single license. I'm not able to run the trial. So you see, it says it's expiring on 5 of 17 because I actually paid for it. It's a license based paid. I paid for this basically, so it's not trial. So I don't know. At your end, you may also have to pay for one license. You can do that within your group. You may have to pay for it, and you might be lucky Microsoft might allow you to subscribe to its trial, but I'll encourage you to try and subscribe for it maybe this week, so that by Saturday it is ready, and then you're able to follow the class when we go hands-on. So basically, we'll start with the first module. I did mention earlier that at the start of the program that you have Defender for doing different things. And I mentioned that for the external threats, you use the suite of Defender to actually address different things. For vulnerabilities involving your cloud resources and on-premise resources, you use Defender for Cloud. We also have Defender for Identity for people that are using on-premise Active Directory and need to be able to manage vulnerabilities around users' identity across the system. We've also talked about which other Defender have we spoken about? So we've also talked about, sorry, I'm just going to go back to, yeah. So we've also talked about Defender for Office, where we talk about email and collaborations and those settings that you can turn on. And there we spoke about things like save attachments, save link, and the rest. We also have a Defender for Cloud Apps, which is the one that actually protects individual users and the app that they interact with. And currently we'll be talking about the Defender endpoints. So Defender endpoint is able to do many things for us. The first thing it's able to do for us is actually endpoint behavioral sensor. A lot of time when people join organization, they are given laptop, and those laptop in a way have been given some level of trust. So when people log on to those laptop, in most cases, they are able to access companies, applications, and data without any extra verification. So if an attacker gain hold of those systems, or it's able to create a footprint or foothold on those systems, it can really become easy for those attackers to actually move across the network without being detected. And also some vulnerabilities may allow an attackers to actually exploit the weakness in applications and software, and then be able to actually circumvent some security settings and then compromise the system. So Defender for Endpoint provides the core Defender vulnerability management for system. It provides attack surface reduction because it can look at users and the way they interact with system and be able to tell you the risks associated with those patterns and even the configuration weakness on the systems, and then recommend what needs to be done. It provides next generation protection, XDR. It provides endpoint detection and response. If a vulnerability or a suspicious activity is ongoing, it's able to detect it and also respond to it. If you have a malware attack or ransomware attack, and my Defender for Endpoint is able to see that this is a ransomware attack, it's able to actually block the operation before it's actually wreak more havoc. It allows for automated incident investigation and also remediation. And you have Microsoft threat experts behind that can also assist your organization if you have some issues. So these are the core elements of Defender for Endpoints, and we'll be covering them. In terms of what's it called, practice security administration, I think from the start of this program, I've always said that security starts from being able to manage the vulnerabilities and the threats before being able to mitigate threats before they actually wreak havoc. And now for your assets, you can't really secure what you don't know exists, basically. So managing your asset, defending your organization start from you actually identifying your assets and understanding the weaknesses, the vulnerabilities that exist within your organization. So threat and vulnerability management, yes, when you have onboarded your systems into Microsoft Defender for Endpoints, you are able to see those assets, you are able to manage them, you are able to categorize them, and you are able to see the vulnerabilities that also exist on them. I'm just hopeful that Oracle for Cloud would have responded to me, but it's taking forever. Yep, you're able to see what really exists. And in terms of attack surface reduction, it's a set of capability that provide first line of defense in the stack by ensuring configuration settings are properly set and exploitation mitigation technique are applied. A lot of times people set controls, or they do not even know, organizations do not even know what they don't even know that there are some specific baseline that they should apply. Some of these things is what Defender for Endpoint will look at and actually give you a recommendation on the things that you should do or your organization should do to provide hardware-based isolation and maintain your system integrity. Application control, moving from traditional application trust model, where you trust all the application on your system. Exploit protection applies mitigation technique to app within your organization, both individually and organization-wide. And it can also provide extended protection for malware and social engineering by smart screen in Microsoft Edge. So basically, if you are using Microsoft Edge to access email, it's able to actually gives you, so there are benefits in actually using Microsoft Edge for organizations compared to using things like Chrome, basically, because you have added protection if your organization is using Microsoft Defender for endpoints, and you can have controlled folder access as well. You have some folder paths that you can exclude. You have some folder paths that malwares also tend to run from, basically because most applications always exclude them from scanning. So some of these things Defender for Endpoint can actually do to help and reduce your attack surface, basically. So the Microsoft Defender endpoint is actually an antivirus. It's an antivirus. So it's an antivirus with anti-malware protection built in, basically. And you can use it on desktop, you can use it on computers, you can use it on servers, basically. It is cloud delivered. You don't need to deploy servers to actually manage it in your environment. You can schedule scanning, and scanning is always actually on. So it's scan files, it's scan processes, and it monitor file and processes behavior. And when heuristics are actually found, anomalies are found, it's able to apply real-time protection to it. So it's also able to automate some response when certain things are identified and they look suspicious. If you have an what's it called, an automated investigation enabled, it can also investigate it and also block it, basically. You can also use it to do hunting within your environment. You can explore. You can also do hunting in your environment. You can run advanced query, basically. For instance, this query you have here finds PowerShell execution event that could involve a download, basically. So the code, I'll just allow you to go over the code and read it, basically. So the knowledge check: what is required to deploy Microsoft Defender for endpoints to Windows devices in your organization? To deploy, you just need to have a subscription to Microsoft Defender endpoints, basically. Microsoft Defender is included as part of the window, but not Defender for endpoints. What you have is a free version of Defender that just provide a basic anti-malware solution. But for organizations that need to be able to aggregate and have clear visibility into their exposures or their security exposures across the devices in the organization, they need Defender for endpoints. So basically, it's a subscription to Microsoft Defender for endpoints online service that is required. So which of the following choices describe threat hunting using Microsoft Defender for endpoints? You can proactively inspect events in your network using a powerful search and query tool. That's true. You can detect and block threat hunting, right? Okay, you can detect and block apps that are considered unsafe but may not be detected as malware. You can reduce vulnerabilities, attack surface in your application with intelligent rules that help stop malware. All of these three are correct when it has to do with Microsoft Defender for endpoint. But I think which of the following choices describe threat hunting? So I'll select the proactively inspect events. And the third one, say which of the following capability isn't a component of Microsoft Defender? We have the next generation protection. We have endpoint detection, and cloud device management is the obvious answer. Cloud device management is is a different solution. It's I think Microsoft into from Microsoft, but you have different other solutions as well that can be used. So how do you deploy Microsoft Defender? To deploy Microsoft Defender for endpoints, basically there are several ways. If you have few systems, basically, I think you start by configuring actually, and also selecting how you want system to connect to your to Microsoft Defender online service platform. So if I go back to Purview and I go back to endpoints, basically you see the advanced feature, and basically this actually tells me the different functionalities that I can turn on for Defender. You can see that restrict correlation with scope device group. This setting is turned on. Alerts are correlated into separate incidents based on scope device group. I don't always use this. Enable DR in block EDR in block mode. EDR stands for extended detection and response. You see when turned on, Microsoft Defender for endpoints leverage behavioral blocking and containment capabilities by blocking malicious artifacts or behavior through. Basically, in short, it allows you to quarantine a device when when the device is actually suspected of being infected by malware or some other behavior until they are actually cleaned and safe. Basically, automatically resolve alerts. Resolve an alert if automated investigation find no threat. If an alert has been raised and the Microsoft automated investigation checks and see that there is no issue with it, if you want it to auto resolve, you can turn it on. But if your team would like to look at all of the alerts and for further check, you can turn it off. I'm just going to leave it on for the purpose of this training and demo. If you want Microsoft Defender to be able to block certain, it's turned on, and cloud-based protection. So if you want to be able to block certain file types, you can turn this on. If you want to hide duplicate record, you can turn it off. If you want to configure device to allow to block connection to certain IP address, for instance, maybe you have an IOC, indicator of compromise, and you know that the IOC, you have certain IP address that you know that any system that talks to is likely it's maybe an APT group IP address. So you can turn this on to allow you to be able to list some custom IPs that you may want to do. A lot of time when you turn on antivirus when you don't turn on antivirus tamper proof, you see that a lot of people in the organization might be able to go to settings and actually turn off your protection. So it's always good to actually turn on tamper proof. So basically, if you look at my Defender, for instance, I have firewalls, I have app security, I have all of these. So if I feel like I don't want to use what's it called? I don't want to maybe this antivirus is disturbing me or it's preventing me from doing something. A lot of time people will just find a way to actually to turn off the antivirus. Because this is currently unmanaged, I think I don't have all of those options. Okay, manage settings. You see, as an end user, I can turn off certain things. You can see I've turned off real-time protection. I've turned off all of these things. So basically, if you don't want your end user to be able to turn off security that you have set, basically you can turn on tamper protection. If you want details about your users to be shown in logs relating to endpoint issues, you can turn on the show user details as well. If you want to enable integration with Skype for business, and that is now called Microsoft Teams, you can enable one-click communication with users. So these allow you to be able to talk to users from XDR directly on Teams. If you want to forward event from Microsoft Defender for Endpoint to cloud apps, you can do this. I always love for things to do sharing, basically. If you want to turn on web filtering for organizations that need to use proxy, if you want to be able to enforce proxy without setting up proxy within your environment, you can turn on the web content filtering. You have device discovery. You can download quarantine files, backup quarantine files in a secure, what's it called? If you have files that are quarantined basically, and you want to be able to download it, you can turn it on. So basically these are the different settings. You want to aggregate reports. If you want to use RBAC within endpoint protection itself, you can do that. And if you want to turn on Microsoft into connection, I always recommend to turn this one on if your organization is using Microsoft Intune for device management. And the reason why I said this is it actually makes it easy for you to do deployment of endpoints. It allows you to do deployment of endpoints, and I always love to turn on preview features so that when Microsoft release new features, automatically you get that. If you do your configuration for the first time, Microsoft will give you this nice tutorial on how to navigate what's it called, on how to navigate Defender for Endpoint. But basically, this one just allow you to select features that are available, basically. In terms of licensing, I know that I already have license that covers for it. And I can see that my license is for plan 1, basically. It applies to only myself, the user. It's a user license. So basically, this cover for every endpoint that the user is logged onto. In terms of email notification, when you have new vulnerabilities or you have alerts, you want to be informed. So I always add, I just always call it default email notification. Sorry. Default email, what was that? Default email notification. And if I click on next, basically you are able to select, I always love to include organization name, especially, well, maybe because I work for consulting. If your organization have maybe 2 or 3 tenants, it's still always good to include organization name so that you know which tenant it is that is having issues. And I always love to include device information as well. In terms of alert severity, I don't want to be bothered about informational details if it's not a risk or a threat. I don't need to know. But threat, no matter how small, I want to be informed. So that's why I'll select low, medium, and high. And for recipients, I can always put my details. I don't always recommend that you put a username. Always endeavor to use a group email address for notification. And the essence of that is just to ensure that someone in the team can always pick it up. Or maybe if someone leaves, that doesn't then fault your setup. So as much as possible, always use your security team's email group for the notification. I think I just sent text to myself and I should be able to receive it. And you can see receive your endpoint attack notification service application, basically. The other mail I sent, I'm still waiting for it. I hope it didn't go into junk. Okay. So, okay, it just came. So this is the notification that I test, basically. Microsoft Defender for Endpoint test email. You see this how it's going to come, and you see the organization name. It is CMG1, which is one of the things that we configured. If you don't properly configure this, your organization will not get notification, and you really want to be proactive in getting notifications when things happen. So that is why I'm going to create that notification. In terms of vulnerability as well, when new vulnerabilities default, when new vulnerabilities are also identified, you want to be notified, and that is why you're going to select that as well. For vulnerabilities, for threshold, I always want to set it as low. Vulnerabilities, no matter how small, I want to be notified. If exploit has been verified on my system, that means that exploitation has been verified. You want to be notified. If new public exploit is available, you want to be notified, or if exploit has been added. A lot of time when vulnerabilities are communicated, the question is, how easy is it for people to actually exploit? While any vulnerability can be exploited, but just that some of them are difficult to exploit than the other. So if it's being exploited and information on the exploit as well, I also want to know actually. It will help me in actually thinking about how I want to secure my system, and also help me in what I prioritize as well. CSMG1 dot on Microsoft.com. Basically, I can also test this, and I'm just going to click next and also submit. And basically, I've created a default notification and the email that should be notified if any vulnerability is found, or if Defender for Endpoint raise any alert, who it should go to. The next action is the auto remediation. Set the auto remediation expert for attack disruption, blah, 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 to manage device group, basically. In terms of remediation, you need to add your devices first, put them in group, and then you can configure remediation based on the group. That's what it means. I've already said that I'm not going to turn on roles, so I'm going to leave this as is, and I'm going to skip this for now. So alert suppression is now part of XDR, and I just click that, and you see it brought me to alert tuning. So I can create a rule here for alert tuning, and I can create a rule here for alert tuning, and I can select the sources. I'm just going to select all of the sources, and basically all of the scope, and you can set a condition for alert if trigger equals any entity property. Yeah, so if trigger equals any, I think I've already set the condition that the sources can be anything. What action do you want to take? You can give this alert a name. So basically, if you want to be alerted when any of these Defender products raise an alert, you can configure it here. So you have a notification as well. But I think Defender for Endpoint, if you have a SOC team, everything here should interest your SOC team, and I'll say everything should be selected. And basically, you can give it whatever name that you like, and you can give it whatever name you like, and add filter condition. Yeah, sorry for the background noise. Well, I think the first thing is always to think of what you want to do. And okay, so what am I trying to achieve here? Basically creating a alert tuning for everything here. So if you have maybe some false positive that you want to rule out, then you can use the condition basically to either filter out or probably to actually, I mean, anything that you want to tune in or to remove out of it, you can basically adjust your condition to actually filter out or to filter in. So in terms of the condition, you have the triggers, basically, which could be, I mean, trigger is just the action that generates the alert, and you can also have the trigger as the entity property. I've selected trigger and equals basically. And if you look at the equals, you have for files, you have for IP, you have for URL, you have for processes, you have accounts basically. So whatever it is that alert you are trying to tune, the essence of tuning alert is just to ensure that you are not receiving too many alerts basically. So if you have maybe alert of interest, you can always select it. And if you have, oh, sorry, I should zoom my screen. And if you have alerts that is not of interest that you want to also filter out, I think you are able to use the logic and or to actually create that. For indicators, I did mention earlier, we were saying while setting up that in the features that do we want to be able to block some IPs? Do you want to be able to block some URLs? I think while we're doing Defender for Office, we talk about while we were doing Defender for Office, we talk about blocking file based on file hash, IP address, so URLs and domain. Basically, if you have some URLs you don't want your users to be able to browse to, you can always add them here. And if you have maybe IP addresses that you don't want them to be able to browse to, you can always or communicate with, you can add them here. If you have file hash that is suspicious, you can communicate them here. If you have certificate that are suspicious, you can also add those certificate thumbprints, basically, also here. If you have process memory, if in your organization they are asking you to block something or prevent users from being able to access certain things, this is your go-to place under rules. If you want to protect memory hash as well, I think you are not able to populate that directly from here, but you are able to do that if you have a particular memory information that you want to preserve rightly from the XDR. You are able to do that. In terms of web content, you can create a policy here that says that does for web filtering. Basically, in most organizations, people would always not be allowed to access adult content. People may also not be allowed to use things like they may not have issues with download sites. They may not have issue with streaming sites like YouTube, but they may have issue with image sharing sites and peer-to-peer sites. Well, some organizations may use image sharing, like Pixel, maybe Adobe or whatever. But things like torrent, BitTorrent, and all those peer-to-peer applications that can even bring security issues into organization, you really want to block it. For things like legal liability, like child abuse images, hacking, illegal drugs, serve-armed weapon, they may be blocked. Things like instant messaging, maybe like Facebook, some organization will block it, some organization may not. Web-based email, organizations that don't want people to be able to access Yahoo, Gmail, and all of those things, they can use web-based email. Some may not even allow instant messaging. Some may not want to allow professional networking like LinkedIn during work hour. But again, we may want to just relax, basically. If you feel like your organization should not be able to access newly registered domain because their activities have not been properly profiled, you can do that as well. You can click on next or managing group. I just want to select all, and basically you can see, and I can click on this. So basically any system that I onboard to endpoint, defender for endpoint, inherit the policy. Did I say the policy? Inherit the policy that I have just created. I hope I save that policy. Yeah, okay, I saved it. Now automated upload. If you have file content that you want to submit for analysis, automatically, yes, I always want to turn this one on to just ensure that I don't ask users to be submitting files when issues are raised. Let Defender upload those files directly backend so that they can be analyzed. If you have files and folders that you want to exclude from scanning, you can always put a folder path. If you have maybe some custom applications in your organization and you have some paths where those folders are stored, and then you see that users need those folders, basically, you can put the folder name and the path to the folder. You have asset rules, but this one is better under asset management. In terms of configuration enforcement, you can also enforce configuration. If you set security in Microsoft Intune for organizations that use Microsoft Intune for their endpoint management, if you set security baseline or configuration profile, basically, you can use Defender to enforce those security. So what it means is when the device does not meet those compliance baseline that you set, they are treated as not being non-compliant, basically. And the configuration, if you want, you can enforce it on all Windows clients. You can enforce it on all Windows servers. If you want to enforce the same rules on domain controller, you can do that, and on Linux devices, but you need to know how you have set up your what's it called, Intune, before you start applying all of these, basically. And if you have configuration manager, which is more like an on-premise version of Intune, you can turn that on as well and save. For Intune permission, I'm not going to go into all of that. Now, how do you onboard? There are several ways you can onboard systems to Intune. To endpoint, Defender for endpoint for management. In organizations where you are using proxy and you just want to limit the number of IP address or services that you permit, you may want to use a streamlined approach But if you don't have constraints and your systems are able to talk to any system on the internet, you can leave it at standard. The deployment method, you can download a local script that you run on systems to actually onboard the device to Defender for endpoints. You can use group policy, you can use endpoint configuration manager, which would be the ideal for organizations that need to deploy or onboard maybe thousands of systems or even hundreds of systems, basically. So if you use VDI in your environment, you can use this. But basically, I'm just going to use local scripts for 10. And you can see that I can download the local script. I can download the local script. Where is the script? So you see the script here, so which I can actually just run. I try to run it because it's unsigned. You see the window sheet actually telling me. I'm just going to click on run anyway. When I click on run anyway, you see it brings up this script here, and I'm just going to click on yes to confirm. And basically, Microsoft Defender for Endpoint Process script is running with insufficient privilege. I need to run it as admin. Basically, what I'm going to do is go into Defender, into what is it called? Extract or and extract or yeah, it's been extracted. So what I can do is actually open command prompt as admin. Open command prompt as admin. Okay, it's still running terminal CLS. So I'm just going to have to users, see users admin. Is it admin or users? Let's say default. Okay, admin, and then it's download, and in my download I have Windows ATP package, and I also have Windows ATP. I'm just going to click on this. Yes, performing the testing administrative privilege. Yeah, script is running with sufficient privilege. Basically, I need to run it as administrator. If you are not running it as administrator, it may fail. Script is performing onboarding operation, starting the service, if not already started. Finish performing onboarding operation, wait for service to start. Successfully onboarded machine to Microsoft Defender. So basically, if I come back to endpoint, so that means I've run it successfully. One way I can confirm if one way I can confirm it's been successful is actually by just running and see if Defender actually picks up this point. So Microsoft already written a just this little script which actually looks malicious. If you look at it, it's starting PowerShell exe, bypassing Windows security execution policy, saying that Windows should stay silent, and silently is trying to download an exe file called 1.exe from HTTP using testpad, basically. So that behavior or that activity is suspicious. And if this is happening, then it means that if that is happening, then it means that what's it called? I mean, it means that if that is happening, then it means that it's something suspicious, basically. So in terms of onboarding, if you go to devices, you should be able to see my machine come up now. And as you can see a device here coming up, CSMG VM1. Oh, is someone logging in with me? or have I onboarded a VM? I think I created a VM called CSMG V1. I can't remember. Yeah, maybe I created a VM already. I don't know. And basically, the short and the story is that you can see two devices, and you can see when the device was last seen. Currently, there are no data for this device, and you can't see last logged on. But basically, if you give it some time, you'll be able to see it. And now, if you look at it, you see that I ran a PowerShell command earlier, and you see that it's actually raised it as an alert that I ran this suspicious commandlet. And if you actually click on it, you will not only see went to Explorer, launch CMD, initiate a PowerShell, and you can see the full commandlet that I actually ran basically. So it shows you things that are suspicious on the system that you can do as much as possible. And you see here also that I can actually tune this alert. If I feel like I want to tune it, I can tune it from here instead of actually going the other way that I did earlier. And one thing you should also have noticed that I got an email because we also configure an alert. You see endpoint detection actually picked up suspicious PowerShell command line, and you see it's an execution. You see the alert page. I can go to the incident page, and on the incident page, you'll be able to see information about the alerts that raised the incidents. And if we leave it for some days, you see that Microsoft will try to do it. Will try to auto work on it. And now, if you look at it, you can see the things that are involved. You can see the processes involved. You can see the URL involved, and you can see the heat map. Basically, I was trying to download something from this IP. This is the user that did everything on this system. And if you click on the processes, you can view the processes that I interacted with. I ran CMD, then CMD tried to run PowerShell, basically. So this gives you a quick view of what is happening, the communication part, and also the association. The association, you see there are broken lines. Basically, you see an admin doing something on this system, interacting with this process, and you see that interacting with these processes, we try to communicate with these endpoints, basically 127.0.0.1, and that actually gives you an idea of what happened and how you can deal with it. You can see two alerts that were raised. One is informational and one is medium. And the medium is saying that suspicious PowerShell activity, suspicious PowerShell command line. And you can see the assets involved, one user, one device. Currently, there are no investigation, but in terms of evidences and responses, you can see the processes involved. You can see the IP address involved. You can see the URL involved, because I tried to download this URL from, this file called one.exe. If I need to manage the incident, I can click on manage the incident. I can increase the severity. If I want to increase the severity, I can assign it to someone. Obviously, I'm going to assign it to myself. The status, you can put it in progress because I'm already looking at it. And you can do some classification as well. Because this is a security testing, I'm just going to leave it as security testing, but I think I should leave it as resolved as well, so that I don't give myself work to come back and do. And that is it. I just resolved one incident. So I think we'll stop here today. And on Saturday, we'll continue about Defender for endpoints. And by that time, I'll expect that you would also have tried to onboard your system following the approach that I did. And I recommend you to onboard maybe like 2 or 3 devices. If you can onboard your Azure VM, try to onboard it. If you can onboard maybe a Linux system, try to onboard it. If you cannot use VM on your desktop, you can try to sign up for Oracle and create a VM there just to ensure that you're able to use Azure Arc still to bring the server into Azure into Azure, and then also register all of those devices to what's it called? Register those devices to Defender for endpoints. Are there any questions?